الله أكبر الله أكبر. Okay, all right. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya'i wal Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa ashabihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. So again, Jazakumullah khairan everyone for coming and giving us your time. It's an honor to be of some benefit to you all, and also, of course, honor to be of khidmah of the Quran. And so I just wanted to divide this session into two parts. The first part is just a reminder. It's going to be very briefly. I'm sure all of you are aware of the general procedure and the what happens the day-to-day process that's involved in Hifdh. And then after that, once I explain like the different parts of Hifdh, the expectations, and the role of the parents, I then will share. That's the first part. The second part is I will share some of my thoughts. I've been observing the school since yesterday. I was here for the entire time yesterday. I was here also today for the full session, sitting with each class, and spending like almost an hour with each class, talking to the teacher and also sitting and listening to a majority, if not all, of the students. And I will also continue to do that, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, tomorrow. So the second part of it will be me sharing with you all my thoughts and what your expectations should be and how I have observed the school. And the third part of it will be, inshallah, to open it up to any of the parents if you have any questions, and if I can answer them, then inshallah, I'll answer them as best as possible. Okay, so I would just like to start off by saying, alhamdulillah, I was asked to come and observe the school, and I was given a little bit of a background of the school. I think, first off, just before even starting anything, I think the fact that I was asked to come and observe the school already is a good sign of the good faith and the intention of the school to try to be as robust as possible, as well as to maintain a process of checks and balances, so that they're not just tooting their horn. They don't just feel like, okay, we think we're okay, so that's it. That's our final say. But the fact that they're inviting a third party is a testament to, inshallah, them wanting the best possible for the school, for the parents, and of course, as well for the students. So I think that's a very important thing to appreciate, that the fact that the school took up this process. And I'm grateful that they had asked me to come observe, and I will just share what I was able to observe. So just as I mentioned, the first part is a reminder as to how Hifdh works. And I want to give this reminder because I think it's also important for the everyone to be aware of where the importance in Hifdh should be allotted. Like the parents may have a perspective, the teachers may, and the students may have a perspective, the teacher has a perspective. Where should most of the attention be given, or what is, should be given the most importance? So the first part is just understanding that there's three main and essential aspects to the everyday routine of Hifdh. The first part, and the first part is the old, previously memorized lessons. The second part is the near lessons, or the newly memorized lessons. And the third is the new daily lessons. I just want to talk a little bit briefly about each component of Hifdh. Because a parent may think, okay, if the students are in the school for 4 or 6 hours, they may only be like, they should be able to memorize everything. Well, in case, I just wanted to make this as a reminder, allow this to serve as a reminder of how the parents should understand what's happening in school. Okay, the first part is the revision. This is how the day begins for all of the students after the assembly, of course. And this is the correct order of operations. Why? Because the Hifdh is what should be given the priority, right? It's if a person isn't able to take, if a person, you cannot take, if you're climbing a ladder, consider, Hifdh as climbing a ladder with 30 or 60 steps, right? With each step being like half a juz. If you're on the third step, right, and the first and second step are not solid, right? You want to. That's not the best way that the student should be approaching the Hifdh. You want to make sure that you're approaching it where, as you're taking the next step, everything that was prior to that step was also taken care of, solidified, and it's continued to be shown its importance, right? Because imagine the stair. I gave the example of a ladder, but you want to go up and down the ladder. It's not just going up. You're going up and down the ladder. If you're going up and the steps below are broken, then what's going to happen? You're not going to be able to go down because the objective here is to go up and down. And so if you're moving up in Hifz, but the steps 1 and 2 are broken, then that's going to be very difficult for the person who's on this journey. You see what I'm saying? So the most important part is revision. This is the backbone of Hifz. This is what will reflect on their life for many years to come. And I want to just mention this one point. Sometimes a student of Hifz will think, and I was a student of Hifz, of course, alhamdulillah as well. And so I understand what the psychology of a Hifz student is, which is, okay, I just want to memorize now and I'll take care of my revision maybe tomorrow or later. But I just want to at least memorize. And maybe parents may have this perspective as well. But I'll tell you this, tomorrow never comes. The quality of Hifz that a student finishes their Hifz with is what will remain with them for the considerable amount of their years and their life. So, for example, I can tell you many students who memorize Hifz, let's say they didn't entire the Quran, and their juz, let's say from 10 to 20, were a little bit weak. 10 years later, those juz they still struggle with. They still, when it comes to Taraweeh and they have to review the juz that were weak from the time of their Hifz, they get nervous because, oh, these are the juz that are a little bit, I struggled with during my Hifz, and they have to do extra practice. The point I'm trying to make is that the amount of time a student is giving to the Quran during their Hifz journey is the most amount of time they're going to give to revision in their Hifz journey. Later on, they're not going to be able to redo everything and say, okay, my 5th juz was weak. Let me spend my time now later on to make it work. Today, they're dedicated the entire life to the Quran. The day, 24 hours to Quran. Tomorrow, it's going to be for academics. The next day, it's going to be for college. The next day, it's going to be for high school. The next day, they're going to be in sports. The next day, they're going to be working. So how are they going to ever get back to that revision again? To put in that same time in priority. They're not the revision. The quality of the Hifz will not be prioritized in their life once they're done with Hifz. I can tell you that. That's just how it works. So it's very important for parents to understand this. That if the quality that they finish their Hifz with is something that will resonate with them for years to come later on, right? And so revision is very, 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 very important. It's the most important aspect of Hifz, because one of the most daunting things that a student of Hifz has to deal with is, okay, I memorized this juz, and so I think I'm past it. Then they come back to it, let's say 2 months later, they have to, and it's weak, they have to redo it. It's like putting double the effort, right? So no student wants to put in double the effort. So it's very important that the revision is given. It's important to where it's supposed to be given, which is the most important thing, right? And that has to be in the mind of every Hifz student. I know, listen, when I was in Hifz, my day one, I was thinking about when am I going to finish? This is the day. This is in the back of every Hifz student's mind. They're thinking, okay, 2 years later, 3 years later, when is that day going to come? That's in everyone's the back of the students' minds. That's the back of the parents' mind, and that's that's just a natural thing. But I think the most important ingredient here is hard work, focus, and of course, patience. Without these three things, it's very difficult to be successful. Hard work, focus, and patience. And with revision, to move forward, I think patience is an important ingredient here. So I wanted to impress this, that impress them, make sure that everyone is aware of this, that that inshallah um, that we want to make sure that Hifz the priority, or we want to put the revision in the place that it belongs in the hierarchy and the importance of tasks that a Hifz student is completing. So that's the first thing. The first step for the students is Hifz. Now, every teacher has a different amount dependent on how much the student has memorized. Bare minimum, the revision should be 1 juz. If a student has memorized 2 juz, one juz should be very easy. And I mean, they have the time to do that as well. And likewise, those students who have more juz memorized, 1 juz should be bare minimum that they should be revising, at the very least. If they're able to, then they should try to. Those who have more ajza memorized, they should do a juz and a quarter, or a juz and a half. And if they're able to, they should try to do two juz. But that's just something that I wanted to mention. Okay, the second thing is the newly memorized lessons. These are like the previous 5 or so lessons that the Hifdh student has memorized. The bare minimum is about the 5 newly memorized lessons. This is usually the standard that's implemented at most schools. Um, the 5 previously memorized lessons are what will be the newly memorized lessons. Sometimes it's more, right? But usually it should not be less. Oh, okay, turn on the camera. Sorry. Let me see. I have to do. Oh, there you go. Okay. Okay. So that's right. The bare minimum should be the 5 recently memorized lessons. Bare minimum. So if a person is memorizing half a page, that should a day, that should be at least 2.5 pages. Ideally, 3 pages they're doing every day. And if it's more than that, that's great. But the bare minimum is 5 lessons. And sometimes what happens is whatever the student has memorized of the juz is what will be the newly memorized lesson. So if the student is like in the middle of the juz, which is 10 pages, then the newly memorized will be the previous 10 pages. If they're like 15 pages in, then the newly memorized could be the previous 15 pages. That shouldn't be too difficult or too time consuming for the students to add the extra parts of the juz. But what I've seen is that the teachers are at least implementing the 5 lessons, the 5 recently memorized lessons. Okay, now the new daily lesson. Then there's a third part, which is the new daily lesson. And for this, it all depends on the amount will be dependent on the place where the student is in their hifdh. In the beginning, it's less, and as they progress, it becomes slowly a little bit more and more. And the daily lesson, from what I've seen the teachers implementing, is that it should be with no mistakes. It should has to be with 0 mistakes. Many teachers, some of my teachers would say, the newly memorized lesson has to be like Fatiha, like no stutters and no mistakes. That's the ideal quality, right? And again, it depends on the student and their ability, but the teacher will give an amount where they're able to handle memorizing that amount while maintaining the quality. Okay, so